Let's keep quiet for a few minutes.
Yes. Yes, Gary G, go ahead and record.
Okay.
Okay, let's get our screen back here. Okay, so we're going to start. This is the Enneagram Satsang. If there's more interest, if there's strong interest, we may do more Enneagram Satsangs because we both use it a lot. Ananda Devi actually is better at it with coaching clients, students than I am. So she's actually more the expert than I am. And we discussed the format. So probably, I think what we're going to do is she's going to talk about her experience with students, etc. And then I'm going to come in after that with a different approach, which is basically how you can approach the Enneagram step by step, because there's so much confusion. And I've just, in typical Enneagram 5 manner, have condensed it down to what I think is the quintessence of how to approach the Enneagram, to cut out all that noise and tremendous amount of distraction about personality, Enneagram. This is not the Enneagram of personality. What we're talking about today is the Enneagram of awakening.
Yeah. Okay, so firstly, everyone's type is perfect, although I'm not going to be discussing the perfections today. I'm going to be discussing the blind spots. Those are the things that matter within your type. So just to go over the beauty of the Enneagram, and I'm very simple, and I will know an Enneagram type within a few minutes. I'm usually right. Sometimes I'm wrong, but and sometimes I'm right and they don't know that they're wrong, but we discover that along the way. I pick up on it really quickly. It's intuitive. It becomes intuitive when you know what to look for, more than anything else. So I don't like to come from books. I'm going to talk about my own personal experience with the various types. But to start off with, let me say that because each type is so fascinating and so wonderful, I like to call it, for example, the 1 is God's perfection. The 2 is God's helper. The 3 is God's performer. The 4 is God's romantic. The 5 is God's wisdom. The 6 is God's loyalist. The 7 is God's joy. And the 8 is God's challenger. And the 9 is God's peace. So that's from a positive point of view. We all have personalities, and our personalities never go away, regardless of what happens. You awaken to know that there is a separation between your essence, yourself. The essence is the fundamental, obviously, reason for awakening. The reason people want to awaken to begin with is because they have issues with their own Enneagram type, blind spots. And that's because they are not really seeing when the momentum begins to shift. Because until you actually recognize that your own personality, your own nature, starts to give you warning signals, triggers that come up. It's like being stationed on top of a hill in San Francisco. Has anybody ever been to San Francisco? Have you seen how those hills just go flying down? In other words, when you are sitting on top of one of those hills and you get out your car and you put your handbrake down, what's going to happen to that car? If it's going down a hill, it'll start off slowly, build up momentum until finally it's just flying down that hill and crashes at the bottom, right? It is the same thing with your blind spots. Unless you're able to detect the triggers that you have because of your Enneagram type, you tend to go back into the same patterns over and over and over again. First, most students are in denial. They think, no, I want to awaken because I want to transcend my nature, my personality. I want to be above it all. I'm going to be an avatar. I'm going to bliss out. It's all about this and it's all about that. The opposite happens. When you awaken, you're human. You're here now, and these things still come up that you still have to address. The integration that happens post-awakening is where this work becomes, of course, the most beneficial. I will always be an 8, but I'm working on myself continuously. It's funny, you know, I'll give you a beautiful example of this. When Ramaji and I met, in our arrogance, because we both met, here he is, he's this teacher and had been teaching for a while. And I had awakened a couple of years before. I was as arrogant as any 8. And we looked at each other, and after a while of being together, we kind of had a discussion saying, isn't it funny how we both thought we had reached the ceiling, but it was just another floor. In other words, meeting one another, challenging each other, discovering the things that you can only discover via relationships, via the interactions you have with people. That brought out the 5-ness that he had not yet seen in himself, and the 8-ness that I was not yet able to handle in myself. So the work continues, and the work continues. It doesn't mean we think we are minds. It doesn't think we are our natures. We know the self, but what does it matter if you're not becoming a better human being, if you're not working on your issues?
We met our match, you know, I mean, so we were looking for somebody who would dish it out like we could give it, you know what I mean? And, you know, so we're like, and it's a tremendous, relationships are a tremendous,
mirrors.
Yeah, mirror and agent for change, for transformation. You know, so as are all relationships, that's the thing. You're not an Enneagram type sitting in, like me sitting in you know, in my place, in my home where I live, I'm just like this, you know, quiet little 5. But as soon as you get me involved with other people, I change. So you really have to see who you are with other people, especially in an intimate relationship, but not only that.
Yeah, any relationship is really a beautiful way that the universe gives us to see what we need to work on. Ultimately, whenever you feel a deep love, a deep bond, a deep connection to a human being, they are connecting you to your essence. You know, it's actually your own feelings of love that are being evoked within you. And when you see in them, whatever it is that they are reflecting in you, whether you've been getting pissed off, angry, whatever the case may be, it's usually because something within you is being activated. There's your work. And it's always happens that way, right?
Yeah, well, I just want to say I'm a 5-wing 4 and she's an 8-wing 7, but we're not going to get into the wings today.
No.
We're not going to get into the, you know, the subtypes. All we're going to focus on today is the basic 9 types and what their blind spots are, what their points of avoidance are, you know, what their
okay. Yeah.
So
you know what? I'm going to go through it all, and all I'm going to focus on today are the blind spots. Anybody can pick up any book on an Enneagram. You know, we can always send you guys recommendation. Ultimately, there's so much information. So I'm going to use what I get from students. I'm in this amazing set position where I'm able to really work and see where a one is what a one's doing, what a two's doing. And that way I'm kind of always pointing them toward, hold on a second, you have to see what you're doing here, because the blind spot is the reason you're not awakening.
But you see, you're pressuring and confronting them, and that's what everybody is avoiding all day long. Is
the blind spots.
Is I don't want to be confronted about this, and what Ananda is so good at is basically putting you in the corner. You where your type's going to come out, because you know, you're going to go, you know, and then out comes your type, and you can't hide anymore. So she makes sure you can't hide. You know, and me, I'm a little too easygoing, I think, you know, because so I kind of let people slide. But if they are just messing up and they're just being too obnoxious or arrogant or something, or really stuck, then I will start using the Enneagram. But she's the Enneagram queen, okay, and so she's.
Queen, I wouldn't say, but I like it. I like it as a way to.
You use it better than I do. That's my point. You're more effective with it.
Yeah, I do. But okay, so I'm not better. I just use it more often. So because you know, and again, my reasoning is twofold. The one is I'm not only looking to have you guys awaken. I want your lives to be successful. You know, it's one thing to wake up, and then, you know, more often than not, you have all this post-awakening stuff that comes up because you think that awakening is going to solve the issues. But in fact, at one point to another, you can't hide from yourself anymore.
It exposes the issues.
It's going to expose everything.
It doesn't get rid of them. It exposes them, so now you can finally deal with them.
Exactly.
So
I would rather go through it while you're climbing the ladder than after you're climbing the ladder. You know, it's rather, let's do the integration while we're growing versus after.
Yeah.
So, you know, and the only way is to really know what your blind spots are. So, and that's really where I focus. So let's talk a little bit about the one Enneagram. Can I get a show of hands? Who's a one? Any ones? Let's move to let's just see who's here. I haven't.
Whoops. Okay, so we got any more ones here. Keep your hand up if you're one.
Okay, there's another one. There's another one.
Yes.
Is Robert a one? Hi, Robert. Yeah, he's a one.
Okay. Yeah, makes sense.
Yes.
Okay. All right.
Okay, so.
Got some ones.
I've got cheat sheet, guys. It's too much information that I look at, and usually I'm dealing one-on-one, not in a group, and I just want this to fly as quickly as possible. So if I'm looking down, it's because I'm reading my notes. I've got files of this stuff, but I only need one note for each one. So forgive me if I'm not looking at you. I love you. I'm looking at what's important here, okay? So let's talk about a one, okay? A one's issues and a one's worldview is: the world is an imperfect place. I work toward perfection. And now, how does a one do this? Okay, how does a one Enneagram do this? Okay, what is the spiritual path really of a one? And so they become very preoccupied ones with error. They are very self-critical. And they like to come across, if you're ever with a one, you'll see a person who's very well put together. They will look the part. They will dress the part. They will say the right things. They will want to be so perfect. It will be very important that in your eyes, they're seen as being perfect. You will see in the way you relate to them, the way they email you. They are always striving for this inner and outer perfection. They want to be seen this way. It is very important to them, okay? The anger that a one feels is really, and the anxiety and the non-adaptability and the jealousy are areas where one really needs to focus. Because what a one doesn't understand, and this is one of the biggest themes I see with a one, is that because they have this image they're protecting of perfection, the world needs to be perfect, I need to be perfect. What they're doing is they're not understanding and the triggers of their anger when the anger actually arises. they think that the anger is energy. Oh, I'm just feeling very energetic today. It's energy, until it's too late and they blow. So they have to notice this rise. They have to notice that when I say triggers, why do they feel they need to be perfect? What is perfection and why does it even matter? Isn't imperfection perfect? Is everybody perfect? You know, you start to ask yourselves the questions that really matter, the questions that you have to, you know, I kind of call it, it's like you have to question your own nature. You have to realize what you're doing in order to shift what you're doing. But as I say, if the car's at the top of the hill and you don't do something about the momentum, what's going to happen is it will just start going down and crash. You know, so the minute you become aware, oh, okay, it's called being self-aware. You get triggered. This need for perfection. And then you can actually relax. So what will help a 1 more than anything else? What are the best relationships? Being with a 7. Why? A 7 doesn't give a shit if he's being perfect. A 7 just wants to have fun. A 1 won't understand a 7. Because a 1 is always looking for the right, doing the right thing, saying the right thing, being the right way. So they match up with 7s, and the 7s are like, what the hell, let's just go to the beach and have a good time. You know, they don't know how to enjoy themselves. And life, the meaning of life is about really having a good time, enjoying it.
I want to say something about your analogy with the car at the top of the steep hill in San Francisco. As you explained it to me, there's this moment, you know, where the car is right at the edge of starting to go down and accelerate and gain momentum and more faster. And what you're talking about is by noticing through self-observation, etc. You notice that moment, that gap before that pattern takes over, or just when the pattern takes over, when you can, you know, not resist it or relax. Just really be aware of it, then you don't have to go into the rest of the pattern, or you know. So I think that's a really brilliant image.
It is. You know, I worked with a 1, and she was so fantastic, and you know, she's there now, but you know, she had this incredible practice. I think she's a therapist or something. I can't remember what she is, but just really good at what she does. An incredible lady. And you know, as she progressed, I saw her relax. I saw her relax to the point that eventually she turned around and she said to me, Ananda, she used to have this really good friend, and I don't know if they became romantically involved or not, maybe not, but you know, she always used to judge this friend for having, you know, for not, you know, kind of like critical of him because he wasn't kind of working harder, being more like the perfectionist, doing more what was expected of him. And when she relaxed, he was a 7. Of course, their relationship blossomed and her whole way of being just shifted. So, you know, when you actually start to get this and work on it, the changes within you are so significant. It's a miracle. But again, you have to be confronted and you have to see it. So I'll leave that. Is there anything else you want to add to a 1?
No, I think we need to get on to 2.
Yeah, do you want to talk about a 2?
No, I'll do my thing later on at the end.
Okay, so 2s, let's talk about a 2. They're fantastic. By the way, all the Enneagram types are fantastic. Okay, so maybe I just won't look at my notes to make it go quicker. Okay, let's talk about a 2. You always know a 2 because the 2s are the people pleasers of the Enneagram. They're going to tell you how wonderful you look, that you're the best teacher in the world. They want to send you gifts. They're going to, you know, they will always be, you know, I always say they're the volunteers. They will champion a cause. They will be the ones at the school to go try, because they feel that they're getting love by giving love. And they feel good about themselves when they're doing this. So what a 2, you see, a 2 has got many selves. There's the self at home. There's the self at work. And there's the self, you know, but they don't understand that none of those selves are the essence self, the true self. They are always feeling resentful because what they're doing is they are they are unconscious of their need to please, because in return what they want is love and loyalty, and they have a tremendous pride in what they're doing. The pride in what they're doing is, I'm such a wonderful person, I'm doing so much to help, I'm doing so much to please. How can they not reciprocate? How come they don't see me? What's going on here? But you see, what a one doesn't realize, I mean a two doesn't realize, is that it's really not anybody's job to please you. It's not anyone's job to make you feel loved. It's not anybody's job but your own to find your own inner truth, your own inner voice.
You want to give, go right ahead. They're not obliged to do a damn thing back.
No one's obliged to do a damn thing back.
No, they're going to do what they want to do.
Yes. So what gets really in the way of it too is this pride of feeling that they're this elevated being because they're so giving and wonderful. And then on the other hand, it's this anger that they feel when, of course, they're not recognized for all their good deeds. And this is really the trigger. So again, we're always at the top of the hill. We're looking at the triggers. You start to feel this as a two, if you are a two. Ask yourself, is this really what I want to be doing? Or am I doing this because I feel this is what the other person needs? Don't assume. Ask.
Yeah, you're preoccupied with the needs of others.
Yeah. It makes you feel important because you are helping other people, because you think and assume that they need you. They may not need you at all. You know, it's an assumption based on yourself. It's actually a very selfish assumption, because you're not doing it really for them. You're doing it for you.
It's a strategy in order to have your self-importance affirmed by the other person. You're like, if you need me, right, then you're gonna, I'm going to be valuable and important to you because you need me. I'm going to do everything I can to make sure you need me.
They love to feel needed, exactly, as Ramaji said. Anyway, those are the main issues that I see with twos. And the way past is always through. Once they become aware, and once they don't let that momentum take them soaring down that hill, you just push up that handbrake and you redirect your focus. It's easy. I don't have to do what I always do. There is another way. I can make a decision based on what works for me, my truth, my power, so that I don't feel resentful or angry, because I'm now coming from my place of self. The self knows what to do. The self isn't thinking about how to please. The self knows how to please. It's a knowingness, not a strategy. So there's a difference, okay? So we're going to move on to threes. That's okay?
Yeah.
Who's a three here? I'm sorry, I didn't even ask who a two is, although I kind of already know my
That's
twos.
because we were knocking down your self-importance.
Yeah, that's because I'm an eight.
It's because we forgot.
Yeah, exactly. So
okay, yeah, if there's a three here, you can.
You want to talk about threes, baby?
Yeah, let's do it. Let's do threes.
Okay, so we want to quickly do threes. Okay, threes. You're self-deceiving. That's what you do all day long, every day. You're deceiving yourself, and it's an ongoing battle. And I'm going to explain to you why. Self-deception. The three is the performer. Have you ever seen those people that are standing on stage? I'm going to use a spiritual analogy because these crack me up, because a lot of spiritual people and teachers are threes. They have such a spiritual demeanor. They have such a need to be seen as spiritual that they believe that they are the image. In other words, they are so filled with the self-deception that they actually believe the image. And that's the three. That's the problem with the three. A three has to realize that you are not your image. How you look, how successful you are, all those things really matter to threes. What car do I drive? If you're a leader, if you're a teacher, am I the best teacher? Am I the most important person? They are totally taken by other people's perceptions, to the point that they don't even know who they really are underneath it all. And of course, it all stems from a major insecurity. And that insecurity is, if I am myself, if I can admit my vulnerability, if I can see that I'm just trying to be better than, then then you can let that whole game go, and then you're actually coming from a place of feeling so much more empowered, so much stronger, so much more valued, because you're no longer pretending. Because, you know, in my opinion, you know, you can tell an authentic person a mile away that's someone who's talking the talk. I mean, we're living in an age today that this guru disciple thing, at some point, please, one's got to realize that it's not working. You know, the message is you're the guru, you're the self, be yourself. You know, there's no hierarchy in this life. There's just, you know, you're either that or you don't believe you're that. If you don't believe you're that, why don't I believe I'm that? Let's look at my Enneagram or my HD or whatever, you know. So there's the three's main issue: self-deception. My image is who I am. You are not your image. Stop deceiving yourself. Take a good look at this image while you have it, please, and let it go. The momentum stops when you feel triggered to try and prove yourself. That's all you need to know.
So let me just add a few little things. So here's my notes on 3: appearance over substance.
Very good.
Compulsive production through compulsive doing of a successful image, and doing replaces feeling. Okay, so it's appearance over substance. As there was a famous person, I forget what their name was, but they were being interviewed and they said, what was it? It's more important to look good than feel good.
There's a 3 right there.
And he was a 3.
And he was a 3.
You look fabulous. How do you feel? Doesn't matter.
They absolutely don't want to feel.
Because if they look fabulous, they're having the feeling they think they want, you see, because they're perceived as fabulous, as fantastic. So
their hope is always in action. They don't like just sit with anything they feel. They need to act the role. And that makes them feel their self-importance.
Like dancing as fast as I can.
Correct.
You know, and looking fabulous while I do it.
Yeah.
Okay, let's go on to the fabulous 4s.
You sure you don't want to talk about a 4?
What? I'm just throwing my things in. It's
okay.
I mean, this is fun.
I love 4s. I just want to say I love all the types, but I have a lot of 4 students. I love 4s because they are one of the feeling types of the Enneagram. Very, very in touch with how do I feel. You know, it's the issue that a 4 has is that a 4 tends to believe the fantasy. I am my story. I am the fantasy. A very good example of this would be, you know, I had a student a long time ago. She had fallen desperately in love with a man, and she had divorced her husband. And for 8 years, she had been living a romance in her mind, a fantasy romance, with this wonderful man who was going to leave his wife, and they were going to be together, except 8 years later, he still hadn't. Yeah,
but it wasn't just a fantasy in the sense that it was a fantasy for her, but they were lovers, though.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I think you want to make that clear.
No, but they hadn't been for 3 years, and she was still in the fantasy.
Okay.
She was hoping for a grand return. You know, they are called the romantic of the Enneagram. They long for depth, they want to get to the inner depth of people, of things. They're very push-pully. For example, a 4 will absolutely give you his undying love and devotion, and because in his mind this fantasy of having you be his is even bigger than the reality of when you actually are his. So when he actually has what he wants, he tends to pull away again, because the fantasy is better than the reality. So as soon as a 4 Enneagram discovers that they are living in a fantasy world, for the most part, a story, because they don't like the mundane feelings of just being. This is boring.
Yeah, this couldn't possibly be it.
How can this possibly be it?
I'm too special for this to be it, you know, kind of thing. You have to be special.
They like the elitism. And the issues that 4s have are often around envy. I would say, Jason, what do you think? Envy would be the biggest issue?
Comparing yourself to
because
others,
they
right?
Constantly are yearning for this joy that they feel that other people have,
Somebody
that they
else
just
has.
can't attain it. So it's like everybody around me seems so happy, Why am I not? So there's a tendency towards melancholy and a little bit toward depression, because in a way, that feeling of melancholy and depression, anything is better than just this. Just being.
Well, they get stuck in feeling, but to me personally, the thing about the 4 is the endless story.
Endless story.
The endless story. I mean, everybody gets stuck in story to an extent, you know. It's obviously, you know, that's part of it. But 4s, they immediately start spinning a story as a way to avoid, you know, feeling or knowing what's going on, and that's one of the ways you can tell a 4. And 4s can be challenging because it takes a long time to get through to them.
It does, you know, it does. I mean, we can, because a 4 has to see that it is a story. They have to actually come to a place where they recognize they are believing a story and that they are not the story. And it's tremendously difficult for them to do in the beginning. But once they get that, then they can use their story. And I always say to a 4, the miracle of a 4 is when you use your fantasy wisely and your ability to visualize, fantasize for like manifestation. In other words, seeing the cup half full versus half empty, then your life really can start to work.
And you have that capacity to feel, so the feeling plus the visualization.
Exactly.
You know, I'm a wing 4, I'm not a 4, but I'm a wing 4. And so, you know.
Yeah, but Ramaji is, I mean, he can go into story and 4-ness. It's unbelievable to see. It's drama and it's story and it's romance, and it's the most beautiful thing, you know. To be in love with a 4 is a miracle. But anyway, it's just, but again, he's more 5. But this is a tendency that a 4 has. It's a beautiful thing, of course.
So Romeo and Juliet, you know, Romeo and Juliet is a classic 4 story. You know, we had the dream, and it was, you know, tragically taken from us. And I mean, it's brilliant that everybody has to watch Romeo and Juliet if you haven't.
That's a typical, you know, just the drama, the depth of feeling, you know. And you know that the funny thing is that depth, those feelings, this is why I love a 4. Most people are unconscious and don't want to feel. You know, and that's the biggest problem we find, because we live in a feeling universe.
She feels things very intensely, and so do I, and that's one of our biggest bonds. Is and if I was a 5/6, I think it'd be a different story.
I don't think I would have liked
we
you.
wouldn't be able to get along.
No.
But as the 4, I still remember as a teenager listening to Prokofiev, Romeo and Juliet, agony and ecstasy all in one hour. You know, I mean, the heights and the depths, and you know, that's the beauty of a 4.
Oh.
You know, is they can go to those heights and depths. Well, let's go on to 5. I know nothing about 5, so I'm going to rely on.
I really think we should talk about a 5.
You think I should talk about it?
You are a 5.
I don't know. I want to hear what you have to say, and I'll just throw in my 2 bits.
Okay. Well, okay.
I want to see actually if you do know anything about a 5. Frankly, that's kind of like why I'm, you know.
Okay, so the 5 students that I have, let me talk about my 5s, because I love my 5s, you know. But one thing I will say about a 5, whenever you are sitting across from somebody who seems very aloof, who is very kind of aloof, what you very smart, what's that word? Intellectuals,
analytical.
Aloof, you know, it's the wisdom of the Enneagram and analytical. Breaking through to a 5 is making them see that you know, there is no way to get this understanding of awakening as long as you are in your mind thinking. A 5 has to distinguish between the thinking, the thoughts they're having, and the information. They find their information is so important to them. They have a lot of avarice, greed, energy. I'm storing my information. I'm storing what I know. I don't want to share it, because if I share it, that's going to make me feel empty. It's going to make me feel weak.
Here, let me jump in. Let me jump in here, okay? Because I'm starting to get inspired now. Okay, so basically what happens with the 5 is the 5 is feeling very overwhelmed, you know, as a child. And so basically they go with the option of, all right, I need to conserve my energy, and so they stop engaging, and they disconnect from their emotions, and then they substitute knowledge as a form of power rather than taking action and rather than living.
Mm-hmm.
And that works for a while, up until the point they realize they're very dry,
very aloof,
and they've cut themselves off from life.
they have.
And then you realize you're going to have to face your fear of giving, of you're hoarding your energy, you're hoarding your information. You don't want to let out any information, because information is knowledge, and knowledge is power. And so when I first heard about that the passion or fixation of the 5 is avarice, I was like, what are they even talking about?
Yeah, right.
But now I see it. I'm hoarding, I'm stingy, I'm miserly, I'm a minimalist.
I'm such a minimalist. Holy shit.
I mean, I'm compulsive about drinking something to the last drop. I mean, it's, in a way, I'm pathetic.
Like, why haven't I finished your food?
And
I'm like, because I'm not hungry anymore. But you're wasting. I said, because I'm not hungry. What must I do? Stuff myself to the point that I vomit? It's like, oh my God, but I have to pack it up and take it and eat it tomorrow. Well, I don't think I'll want it tomorrow. I'll decide when I want to eat it.
I'm a textbook 5. Yeah. But what happened for me was I had to get back in touch with my emotions. I had to start taking action. I realized I could think so much about taking an action, I would actually end up feeling I did the action and I never did it.
Boom. That's the biggest thing.
I think myself out of action. Mm-hmm. I think myself out of effectiveness. And of course, the fear of the 5 is I won't be effective. I'll be made a fool of because I didn't know enough. They're the guy at the party that prepares by reading the encyclopedia and memorizes a bunch of jokes so that he can appear funny and smart. I mean, that's a 5.
That's a 5. I'll tell you a funny story. Recently, Ramaji has really been coming out of his 5-ness a lot lately. It's wonderful to see. We went away on a staycation, so like to Carlsbad, which is like 5 minutes from where we live.
A vacation?
A staycation. Because we stay in the same town, but it's still a vacation.
Oh, okay.
So we call it a staycation. But it's a vacation, but it's like 5 minutes away from home.
No, 30 minutes.
30 minutes. So when we're right by the beach, right? And so usually I'm the one that's always like, I'm going swimming, crashing in the ocean. I'm doing this, I'm doing that. And, you can come or not. I'm going to do what I do. And this time he's like, well, we go on this walk and, we're sweating and it's been hot.
Very hot.
And he says, well, you want to swim? I'm going inside and I can see that he made this decision. I'm putting on my swimming and I'm going directly into the ocean. Now there were stones going down where we lived to the actual ocean.
For some dumb reason, they had all of these stones everywhere. You couldn't get to the beach without walking on these stones.
And the night before, I decided to treat him to like a really cool pedicure. So I'd really done a lot with his feet because they had like claws. I didn't want them to kill the sheets.
All my protective calluses
and hurt me,
removed.
So of course he couldn't stand on the stones because they started to burn his feet. So I, of course, had hopped, skipped, and jumped. Look back. Ramaji's crawling on his hands and feet, determined now to swim in the ocean. On his hands and feet down the stones to get to the ocean, down a hill, and comes diving into the ocean. I'm like, what the hell? This is what I mean by, we had an experience. The difference between sitting at home and thinking about going swimming and putting on your trunks and going and diving into that ocean, there is a difference. You don't need to think about it.
And do you know why I had stopped swimming in the ocean? Because when Jaws came out, the movie Jaws.
Yeah.
I then did the research and I found out that in fact sharks do come close to the water where people are swimming. That was it for me. That's my 5-wing 6, right? I said, okay, I'm not swimming in the ocean anymore. I swear to God, that's why I stopped. And then now, so she's an 8. So she's basically provoking me and challenging me. And I said, okay, I'm going to go for it. And of course, it was fine.
Yes.
It was fine.
Anyway, so the main issue, the triggers for a 5 is please notice when you are reflecting, going into your research,
or holding back your energy.
And remember, life is meant to be experienced. It really doesn't matter what you know. Who cares?
And the other point here is we're talking about me and I'm talking about being a 5. And one of the points we want to make with everybody is your Enneagram type will continue.
Yes.
The thing is I will watch it arise. And I will laugh out loud. I'll be like, and I can tell her, look at this, look what I'm doing. Isn't that something else?
Yeah.
But you know what? I'm going to be doing something. So basically, whatever either one of us does or any of you guys do, whether you're awakened or not, is going to be one of the 9 types, right? You could be challenging somebody. You could be withdrawing. You could be making jokes. I mean, you know, so it's all of us are all 9 types, but we fixate. It's called a fixation. On one for survival reasons as a child.
Mm-hmm.
That's our go-to place, but we're not limited to that. But the point is, see, I'm a 5. I'm being a classic 5. You know, as an awakened 5, I'm still a 5. But the 5 gets optimized and then can see the value in all the other types. Mm-hmm. Just that, you know, that's what happens. Plus, you access the resources of those other types more readily. You can see them in you, but you're still going to tend to go down what you live according to your nature, according to your type, awakened or not, because you've been living that way your whole life.
It's funny because whenever we have a 5 student, Ramaji will take him for a while, but he'll always
I can't finish them.
You can't finish. You'll always have to send them to me. Why? Because they're 2 5s that are being intellectual. Everyone knows more. It's a knowledge-based relationship. And, you know, Ramaji finds it very difficult to kind of break that spell because he is a 5. It's understandable. They come to me and all of a sudden I'm like, I don't give a shit about all this. What are you even on about? What has that got to do with awakening? And it starts to break this need for I know to I am. There's a difference between I know and I am. But a 5, of course, will use
feeling and being.
Feeling and being. A 5 does not want to feel. It protects itself via its knowledge. The feelings are so important for a 5.
I literally get stuck. I can't do what she does. See, I don't know, it's not a conscious thing, but it would be as if I stopped being this, you know, wise, intelligent, smart guy. And now I'm going to go do this other thing now. It's like, I can't do that. I don't know why, but I mean, it sounds like, but yet it's, you know, it's just these types are so fundamental. Mm-hmm. So the thing to do is use them, make the best use of it. And it's not about getting rid of it. Mm-hmm. You know, we like to say you're actually 2 selves. You know, you're the essence self, which is the pure spacious awareness. And you are also this Enneagram type. The only issue with being a type is the fixation, the resistance. See, that's the problem. It's perfectly fine for a cat to be a cat, a dog to be a dog, a 1 to be a 1, a 9 to be a 9, mm-hmm. an 8 to be an 8, a 5 to be a 5, etc. It's fine because we have to have form. But it's the resistance, it's what we don't like in ourselves that we're resisting.
Exactly. It's always about one fear.
And what we're afraid of.
It's the fear of really annihilation. And and we protect ourselves via these blind spots. You know, it's a way of feeling safe. I am safe because I have this information. I am safe because I'm always helping people, blah, blah, blah. So we're going to move on to a 6.
Yeah, safety. Let's talk about 6.
Yeah. Well, 6 is all about safety. Okay, 6. The 6. The 6 they call the trooper or the loyalist. They are fantastic people. They are you know, they will really stick by you. The issues with the 6, the blind spots with 6s is that they tend toward really seeing the cup as half empty versus half full, to the extent that, for example, you know, Ramaji's also got a lot of 6 in him. So let's say I say, well, you know, I really want to go to India, you know, you know, I really do. I want to go to India. And he's already made a list of the diseases, what could happen in India, the water, how many people get sick, the statistics of how many people get sick. And that's a 6. You know,
and the story about my friends that went to India, both of whom,
all of them,
terrible diseases. They lost 100 pounds and barely survived. You know, so basically, and then another friend of mine has a lot of 6, and so he's telling me he wears all these gloves and this hat and these, you know, the mosquitoes and on and on and on. And here's the only place you can eat because otherwise you could die. And you know, so.
I've decided I'm never going to India with him.
She can go by
And I will
herself
go with
a
somebody
friend,
else or with a friend to India because
Yeah.
it would be an absolute
I don't
nightmare.
think I can go.
No.
No.
So anyway, so let's talk a little bit about a 6. The world view of a 6 is the world is a threatening place. I question authority. That's really the worldview of a 6, okay? Because for a 6, doubt involves a loss of faith.
I don't think they question authority. I think
They do.
Do they? Okay, because to me, what I see with 6 is because of their fear, they doubt they doubt themselves, and so they turn to authority and become loyal to authority. I mean,
what I'm talking about here is success and goodwill are particularly doubtful. In other words, when somebody really is trying to, for example, really do something nice for a 6, the automatic will be, why are they doing that? They're doubting the goodwill. They seeing there must be something in this,
right.
That's a reason why they're doing it.
I agree.
You know what I'm trying to say? That's
immediate doubt.
Immediate doubt.
Yeah.
Okay, and immediate, maybe there's a hidden agenda and all that. So that they really think that their thinking also does replace doing. That's the other thing with a 6, and inaction for a 6 does increase their anxiety. Kind of like the fight or flight kind of thing goes on, and they manifest. Okay, so they really do have high goals. Anxiety it peaks with their success. Because what happens with a 6 is success will equal exposure to hostile forces. They have this whole, you see, a 6, in actual fact, when I actually think about it, and I'm thinking about it now, not for the first time, maybe for the second time. I don't think that often. But I would think the world is filled with a lot of 6s.
I've heard that said.
Because we've been raised to be so afraid. Think about it. Everything, our structures are based around fear, the fear of being invaded by another country. I mean, really, we've created bombs. Yeah, I think a 6 must have created a bomb to feel safe. It makes no logical sense to create a bomb to feel safe. But you see how everything in our societies has been built around the sense of, I'm not okay, I'm not safe, I need borders, I need to protect this. And everyone's out to get me, in a way.
Well,
so yeah.
But the thing we have both seen over and over when we talk about a 6, because we'll talk, just so you know, guys, I'm working with a 6 or she's working with, we'll talk, or any of the other types, we'll talk about the student, we'll share our knowledge and see what we can, when we put our heads together, maybe we come up with a better way to work with
how
the
person. But
what we both seen with 6s is such an emphasis on the cup is half empty. The cup is half empty. That's the thing with the 6s. So, you really, and that is just an interpretation. It's just a projection. The other thing I've seen is the tendency to take some kind of clue or signal or trigger and immediately head into catastrophic thinking about it. Worst case scenario, a disaster, trying to, and then, the typical thing is do anything you can to plan, that you can plan to prevent these things happening, and which of course takes the fun out of it, but these are the things for a 6 to just, if you can catch yourself going into catastrophic thinking, a worst case scenario, a half cup half empty. If you can catch yourself doing that, you say you're going to save yourself a world of trouble, because that's really what the problem is. There's nothing really wrong,
No, there isn't. Remember, guys, that the momentum, again, it's you standing at the top of that hill. You start feeling that trigger, that feeling I'm going into that negativity again. Just change your focus. There really is, anything that happens in life doesn't really have meaning. You project the meaning on the incident, and if you can project a positive meaning on a negative incident, the outcome will probably be much more positive for you.
The meaning's up to you.
The meaning's always up to you. And when you learn just to pick up on those little triggers that keep you stuck, you become very unstuck. And it's beautiful, and we all have these triggers except for me.
Exactly.
Just kidding. I'm an 8. We have more triggers than anybody else. But anyway, and that's the point of this whole talk today, that we're keeping it as simple as possible so that we all feel that we are all in this together. We all have our triggers, our Enneagram type, and, you know, and we can all really, it's not that difficult to feel it in your body. Feel that you see, because usually it's a blind spot because we don't want to see it in ourselves. You know, the reason it's called a blind spot. So that's why it's the hardest thing.
So there's a feeling in the body for all of these things we're talking about, and that's a really great point.
Yeah.
It's something I was actually going to get into. So yeah, the feeling in the body, the thought, the emotion, and the body sensation. So, and generally what happens with people is they'll be aware of a thought and they might be aware of an emotion, but they ignore the body sensation, which means that keeps it going because you've missed a big part of what's taking place. When you become aware of the body sensation, that completes your knowledge of the pattern. And so when you can then let go, not resist that pattern and let it run, you know, and then it runs out of gas. When you resist it, judge it, criticize it, push it away, condemn it, etc. Yes. Oh, I shouldn't be like this. Well, guess what? You are just perpetuated. So the secret is to, as sometimes it's called being the witness, but the secret is to be able to be with the pattern. So you identify what your patterns are as a type, as a 6 or as a whatever. And then you are actually hunting for it. You're literally all day long hunting for your patterns. You're waiting for them. And as I will be talking towards the end of our presentation today, I'm going to talk about what to hunt for, above and beyond what we've just talked about. There are specific tricks, if you will, specific things that will help you go to the heart of your fixation. And that's what I'm going to talk about. That's what you hunt for. So you will see, and how to put yourself in situations to help trigger this fixation, this passion, you know, like. It's
actually a lot of fun when you do the work.
Oh, it's
tremendous fun.
It's like meditation on steroids, you know, instead of you sitting on your butt, hoping something happens.
Do something about it.
Now you can go in right into it and get it going, baby. We're going to make this shit happen.
So, okay, so just to finish off 6s, they have a lot of doubt. It's the doubt that takes the form of the inner questioning. Everything's examined. Like appearances are examined, you know, like if 6 will sit with me and they'll think, is Ananda really awake? She can't be awake. She doesn't even look awake. She doesn't look like Ramaji, like a guru with gray hair, you know, and it's by the time, and then they've got to develop this trust in me.
I don't want gray hair, okay? So I can be a guru, that's okay.
But you know what I mean?
I don't want the gray
It's
hair.
just, you know, everything's really around this, something's always, it can't just be the way it seems. There's some kind of negative agenda around it. And when they get over that, it's fabulous. So we're going to move on to a type 7.
Yeah, yeah.
Well, I love 7s.
We actually both like 7s a lot.
God's joy.
I was actually married to one, so that, you know.
That really worked out for you.
Well, it did for a while.
7s are joyous. 7s
They're funny as hell.
Are funny, they are full of life. They are always jumping from one thing to another thing to another thing. A 7 just wants to make you feel good.
They want to have a good time.
And they want to have a good time. So just a second, I just want to go into this a little bit so that we can, because I find it difficult. I've got a wing 7, so.
But what's going on in their mind, see, this is the thing to look for, is they're compulsively planning for pleasure. In other words, they're always on to the next thing, even while they're having the thing they're on to the next thing already, you know, because they're avoiding.
Exactly. They actually use pleasure and joy and fun experience to avoid feeling. And to actually just sit still for a 7 and to feel is terrifying. What's that?
That is a call that shouldn't be coming in.
Okay. You know, so when you're dealing with where am I here? Hold on a second. So just say something about a 7, because I've got.
Well, they're the comedians, but you see, they're keeping it light in order to keep it on the surface. And you can just, if you talk to a 7, they just jump all over the place. You see, they're like ADD, right? They're just bouncing around, jumping around, and at first it's very entertaining and fun, and then at some point you're going, this is too much icing. What about the rest of the cake? Where's the rest of the cake, Mr. or Ms. 7?
Mm-hmm.
You know, what happened? Where's the meat? Enough sizzle, where's the damn meat? And that's my problem with 7s. You know, so the challenge with 7s is to get them to see that they're, you know, hopping and skipping on the surface, and that it's actually a deadly fear of theirs that's driving this. Not just some love of pleasure, but actually they're afraid of what's underneath.
Well, you see, what a 7 is doing is a 7 loves to feel good about themselves. And it's the most important thing to them. So they have, when they question of self-worth, for a 7 can open up that window of pain. You know, what they do is they support this idealized self-image, and they always living kind of in the future, in the possibility. Next,
yeah, they live in the future.
Next.
4 lives in the past. 7 lives in the future.
You know.
And by the way, I just want to say real quick, it's good to be hearing about all the types. Even if you know what your type is, it's super helpful with life and other people to begin to understand other people's types. I mean, that helps you deal with them. It helps you actually negotiate, if not manipulate them as needed. If you have to deal with somebody in a difficult situation, if you know their type, that helps very much. It helps if you're in a relationship. It helps with work. It's really helpful to know other people's types. So totally. Please don't be bored if we're talking about another type than your own, because knowledge is power, and this is tremendously valuable knowledge.
Yes, it is. Really, you know, there is always a strategy, a way that a 7 will avoid pain, or any of the Enneagram types avoid pain. And they usually describe the techniques for avoiding painful experiences, like they'll reframe the event as a learning experience and making kind of another a plan or another technique, or let's do something else of interest. You know, so anything to have to avoid the mundane or the pain, because they always want an adventure. There's always this openness to the next adventure, the next thing.
So the 7 seem to be the happiest of the lot, you know.
Yes.
And on the surface that's true, and for the short term that's true. But you know, I lived with a 7 for years, and I began to really get that there was something, you know, at a deeper level. Like here's the thing, and what I saw with her, and I've seen with other 7s, is they don't rise to their potential, you know, because in order to really achieve some degree of greatness, for want of a better word, you must be willing to go into the depths of yourself. You must face your pain, your fears, all of that, to be able to excavate your talent and bring it to the conscious level and apply it.
Or follow it through, because 7s actually get really depressed and angry when they feel limitation, like they have to be committed and only do one option and giving away all the other options. In other words, so they settle, you know, settling just feels like a limitation for a 7. Why should I just settle for this when I might be able to want to do that tomorrow, or the next day?
So settling is otherwise called commitment.
Exactly, and that's what a 7. You know, when a 7 matures, though.
Yeah, they're the best.
You know, when a 7 actually recognizes that they're doing this, they will fall into what really turns them on to do, what they really enjoy, and they will commit to it. They will do it wholeheartedly. Again, as with any type, guys, we're pointing out the blind spots.
Yeah.
You know, but once you've kind of seen through that, you're really able to then, you know, master it.
All of the types, whatever your type, when you are when you're liberated within your type, see that the liberation, awakening, enlightenment enables you to be free within your type, as your type. But it doesn't mean you stop being your type. It means you optimize and actualize your type.
Yes.
You know, there's nothing wrong with being any of these types. They all, when they're actualized and fulfilled, they're all fabulous. They're all fantastic, and they're all needed.
Yes, you see that 7s don't care really much about specifics. You know, they think more like people should be committed to the process of their own development. You have to be true to yourself. People are always growing and changing. The specifics are incidental. You know, it's like they just, you know, it's like this. Yeah, I love sevens.
Yeah,
you know,
I do too.
Yeah, you know, it's
well, you know, 5. We're not talking about this, but you know, 5. When 5's under stress, 5 goes to 7. So I love 7 because I want to. Yeah, let's party because I'm tired of being a 5. You know, I'm tired of you know, let's go off into the future and plan and have fun and all that. Anyway, let's talk about 8. Just I don't know. Do we really need to talk about 8?
I don't think so. I think we should skip right on to 9.
There's nothing to say about 8s, really.
Oh, I don't want to talk about it.
Oh, do I get to talk about the 8?
Sure.
Then? Oh, really? I have to talk about the 8?
Yes.
Oh God. Okay. Okay. So this is my take on 8.
I'm an 8.
Yeah, she's an 8. 8s are the thing about 8s is they're driven by anger, and they have tremendous personal energy. Most of the 8s I've met, and basically all of them, the way you know an 8, if you happen to personally meet them, but it could even be online over Zoom or Skype, they have this personal force that radiates from you. You feel it as a physical force. And paradoxically, 8s are not aware of the fact that they have this, and they just kind of assume, you know, they don't even think in terms of boundaries. There are no boundaries, so they have boundary issues because they don't see the boundaries of others. They just are exploding out into the world. It's all assertion, challenging, provoking, etc. It's always outward more than any of the other types because they have the energy level required. Some people have said to me they thought I was an 8, and I'm not an 8 because I don't have that energy level, and I don't have that power like an 8 has. 5 goes to 8 when it's optimizing, so I've you know, developed 8 traits, but as needed. But I can't sustain that energy level. And what I see is that 8s are really they go to anger in order to not feel feelings of, say, weakness or fear or you know,
vulnerability. And an 8 doesn't like to feel vulnerability. So for an 8, what that means, feelings are vulnerability. So for an 8, anything not to feel anything, and so that you just always are the boss. You are taking over. You are, and you really, I mean, truly, you know, an unconscious 8 does not understand a boundary, not at all, or the impact that they're having on people.
Trump?
Yeah, there are millions of 8s. There's also Martin Luther King.
Well, Martin Luther King was a highly evolved 8.
Yes.
Trump is a classic
8. Sexual type.
Yeah, we'll say he's a classic 8. I mean, I'm not going to say he's lower or higher, but I'm going to say he's a classic, you know, 8 wing 7.
Yeah.
A sexual.
Sexual, whatever.
But anyway.
But to give you an idea of an immature 8, yeah, you know, again, I've been working on my 8ness for years and years and years. You know, an 8 tends toward going towards a 2, where you just want to help people and love people.
Well, that's your higher.
That's your higher thing for an 8. The stress for an 8 is going into a 5 where they just isolate themselves and read books. They're actually the biggest loner. Here's the paradox of the entire Enneagram. You know, for me, I choose one person and they're my guy. You know, there's a loyalty thing about an 8. You loyal to me, I'll have your back for the rest of your life and then some. You know, it's this feeling of challenging. You know, if there's an underdog or cause that needs like protection, it's God's courage. Here she comes. She's going to come and she wants to protect anybody who I'm seeing is not being treated fairly. You know, so I'm always coming from this, I need to protect place. You know, and so an 8, even though they're very, very innocent, you see beneath the facade is this childlike innocence that they somehow just didn't feel that they were, I don't know, protected, or they could really be themselves, speak their truth. So they learn to hide their feelings, their actual feelings.
Well, we're all being overwhelmed as little children.
As little children.
And the thing, what the 8 does, because the 8's got that energy level, is they push back. They say, I don't care what you're saying. So the little child is actually totally challenging
throwing a
the
tantrum.
The adults, which the adults have a real problem with because they think they need to be the authority.
Yes.
Whereas I was a 5, so what did I do? I just kind of went, and then went, just sneaking around in my own private, silent little world, learning things, watching movies, going to hang out with somebody that they didn't know about, telling them, because I didn't want to cause any kind of a stir. So should I tell the story about yeah, I will. When I was a teenager, here's what I did. I was a good student, so my parents are going, oh, he's getting good grades. He's no problems with the teachers, right? So they're fine. They're like not real invasive parents. They just let me do my thing. So I actually would tell them, I forget, I was 16, 17. I said, I'm going to see this girl and going on a date. And, she was my age in high school, right? In fact, what I was doing was going to her mother, and then going with her mother to psychic fairs, getting tarot readings, all this stuff. I never told my parents what I was really doing. So I was hoarding knowledge, not disclosing, not releasing this knowledge. That was my way of having power. Then I never had to confront them, never had to lose any energy in having to deal. I would just sneak around and be secret. I was not dating, but hanging out with the mother.
You were a liar.
I was lying, and yet I feel proud about that because I succeeded at getting what I wanted in this stealthy way. I mean, I don't know if that makes sense to you, but I remembered this recently, and I was just saying, wow, this 5 thing goes so deep.
It just goes so deep. So
it must be true with everybody. And the 8th thing goes so deep, the whatever goes so deep.
So the 8th.
So you can't fight it. What you do is you recognize, this is me, this is my, personality structure, and you make good use of it,
Yeah, that's that's the funny thing about the Enneagram. It doesn't matter how old you get or how awakened you are. You're always dealing with yourself. There are things that come up, and the beauty is you can read something about it, in 1 year, and 2 years later, you're like, wow, there's so much of this going on in me. And, what I'm saying, it's an ongoing work. Ramaji and I always say, if you want to evolve, you have to be involved.
Yeah.
A lot of spiritual teachers are telling you to transcend involvement. You don't have to be involved. You can just transcend and bliss out because you're going to be enlightened. Guys, it is the biggest load of bullshit.
It's spiritual bypassing.
Okay, that is spiritual bypassing.
Yeah.
No, it doesn't work. It never has worked. It never will work. You have to see these things.
You can even become awakened and still be clueless. See, that's the thing they're not acknowledging is the job of being a human being, knowing yourself, and it's one thing to awaken, it's another thing to live as an awakened person. Living as an awakened person means you know who you are, which means you know your Enneagram type. As you can see, I mean, I'm a 5, so naturally I've studied this down to the ground. So I know myself inside and out, yet I'm still, just like this last week, I learned some huge things about myself that were affecting our relationship, but also have affected me my whole life. I'm 67 years old. I'm just now seeing this. So it's going to be for the rest of my lifetime. But, I'm very, very interested in knowing it. That's the thing. Otherwise, I probably wouldn't know it.
Yeah, exactly. Because, we want to be the best we can be. We want to evolve. So we're involved in our own process. So that's what we say.
It'd be like you're given certain paints, certain colors. Make a great painting out of those colors. So what if I've got red and green and she's got, blue and black or whatever? It doesn't matter. Just make the best painting you can. It's all right. And then that becomes a window to infinity, because all of this ego personality structures are gateways to this openness, this vast openness. So let's go on to 9.
Okay, ready for 9s, guys? Oh, I love that. Okay, I kind of call 9s the sloth of the Enneagram. the peacemaker. I'm sorry.
Well, don't hold back though.
Yeah, you know, it's like anything, you know, the nines are fantastic, but they, you know, the thing with the nine is a nine likes the peace.
They're very zen. That's the thing about it.
My ex-husband was a nine. I've never, everyone used to say he's the most zen guy you've ever seen. Just don't get him angry.
Chilled out, yeah.
Because he had a wing 8. So very chilled, very relaxed. But you see, the thing is that they are really avoiding engagement. They are avoiding involvement. And their biggest issue that a 9 has is, okay, they'll say, Ananda, it's amazing. Like, I feel so stressed out when I get angry. But on the other hand, I never really feel happy either. There's just this like zen feeling of there's nothing going on. It's almost like always boring, like dull. Because what a 9 doesn't want to do is feel their own vitality. Vitality often comes in the form of anger for a 9. Actually, they'll get really angry, and instead of using the energy, you know, the momentum to kind of like, you know how when you get an energy, kind of like invigorate your body, feel this energy. And I have this energy moving through me all the time. So I don't really understand it that much, but I've seen it with my ex-husband. It's just this lethargy, this like couch potato feeling. I just want to be in peace. Okay, peace is great, but then don't complain.
Yeah, peace at all costs.
Peace at all costs.
You know, and I want to say this one thing I've observed with 9s, which sometimes is very effective, but not always, because I was working with a 9 and I had to send him to Ananda because I got stuck with him. But what they're doing is they actually have a real natural talent for detecting what's coming up inside of themselves. But what they do with that, because they're so biased towards
peace,
staying calm and peaceful, is they squash it. And when I was able, when this was working for a 9, when they saw this, they realized, oh my God, I'm maintaining this calm that I like so much artificially by squashing unpleasant sensations, thoughts, emotions. When they saw that, and I said, all you've got to do to awaken is let that go. Recognize it and then see that it doesn't work and then let it go. And
it's okay to feel your anger. You don't have to act
the waves,
on it.
They like want no waves, so they flatten everything out. And then the complaint I would hear from 9s over and over again in a session
biggest moan.
I am in, I feel like a zombie. I don't have feelings. It's like not good, but not bad. And that's what they want until they realize it's not working, which is why.
And there are a lot of 9s that turn to awakening. And I'll say, why do you? Because they actually using spirituality as an escape. They don't actually want to be involved in life. So they use this non-attachment, this peace, this place of, and they have a gift for it, this like meditative vibe to not feel. But in fact, what they're doing is they're escaping the real here now, which is always wavy because that's the existence we live in. And because they don't want to be involved, they use I'm so spiritual, I'm so awakened, I'm so peaceful as the excuse for actually being involved. And so as soon as they see that, they're able to let that go. And then this vitality starts to come into their lives and they just let go of the notions, the concepts about spiritual, about this and that. And just be yourself. You see, they always, they're protecting this peace that they feel, they just don't feel comfortable not feeling it.
And action is a real challenge for 9s.
It is.
You know, so they don't tend to live to their potential. And when they go through this process and they wake up, then they move to what you could call right action. They're able to actually live authentically. They're very, you know, well, they have it. I personally, I think 9s, you know, they are natural meditators in a way. And so that maybe gives them an advantage in terms of awakening, but they have to see how they're asleep, how they're basically numbing themselves out.
That's it.
One book called it narcotization. You know, they're going to sleep, they're numbing themselves out. Once they see that, then they're actually, it doesn't take them long. So personally for 9s, I think they're one of the types that is more likely to awaken, just to give them a little.
Oh God, they irritate me. I'm sorry, not all, but just my ex. This just didn't work. Okay, so we finished
Yeah, we
with all the
finished.
types.
Well, yeah, I mean, what I would like to do is just run through my little bag of tricks here.
Yes.
And then after I run through my bag of tricks, we'll see how much time we have left. I think it'll take me about 10 minutes to run through this.
Can I go to the ladies' room while you run it through?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah.
The smart guy.
Well,
Yeah.
yeah. Okay, so guys, I hope that was useful to you. We've done our best to target what we think matters. Now, one of the things that happens when you read, there's a ton of books between me and Ananda. I think we have 50 Enneagram books. I don't know. We've got most of the ones that are on the market. And we've read them too. So plus we've worked with people one-on-one for years using the Enneagram. So anyway, we've seen the tremendous value. We're both skeptical in the beginning. Okay, anyway, so there's so much information, it's easy to get sidetracked. So what I decided to do as my unique contribution today is to dial into what I think is the number one thing you can do for each type, okay? Now, there is what most people are familiar with is called the passion or the fixation of the type. So for the one, I'll just go through those quickly just as a recapitulation to recap. So for the one, it's anger or resentment, okay? For the two, it's pride or self-importance. These are their passions or fixations. This is what's underneath, hard to get to. You see, this is not conscious. The two is not conscious of their self-importance. They think they're giving, you know. The one's not conscious of their anger, resentment. They think they're doing the right thing. They think what they're doing is the right way. You know, so for the three, it's self-deception or deceit, or sometimes called vainglory. These are very old passions, the 7 sins plus 2. For the 4, it's envy. For the 5, it's avarice, hoarding, being miserly. For the 6, it's fear or doubt. For the 7, it's gluttony, you know, the constant pursuit of pleasure for its own end. For the 8, it's lust or excess, constant compulsive excess, doing everything to excess. For the 9, it's sloth or inertia. Okay, those are the fixations. Those are the passions. And that's in all the Enneagram books. But the problem is, how do you get to that? It's not easy to see that because we built a personality structure based upon not seeing that about ourselves. So I was like, well, what can we do to get into that, get moving in that direction? What would be the closest entry point? The closest entry point in the Enneagram system is called point of avoidance. The point of avoidance. So in other words, if you're wanting to really get to the bottom of your type, get to that passion or fixation, then what you do is you start looking for your point of fixation. You challenge your point of fixation. And this is where you're going to see your type in action. Now, when you see this point of fixation arising, then as we were saying before, the thing to do is totally relax. Be aware of your thoughts, your emotions, your body sensations. Relax, let go, do not resist. If you start resisting, judging, criticizing, whatever, don't resist that. With practice, you'll really be able to stay in the still point. And at the end of my little presentation, I'm going to read a poem about the still point. But it is this still point. It's this open space. It's the openness in the center of the wheel. Everything spins around what? This openness. So when you can relax into that openness as your type, as your point of avoidance is arising, or if you're seeing your passion, fixation arising, that's what you do. Nothing. Do nothing. Just let it run. Be very unknowledgeable wherever you say witness, or watch, but I don't even want to say that.
Pull up the handbrake. Stop the car.
Just
stop.
And the momentum will continue, but you won't be identifying with it. So, you know, and then you will begin to see how this is freeing you. So you're self-liberating even with the pattern continuing. That's the thing. You see, you don't have to stop the pattern. You don't even have to change the pattern. You just need to be fully aware and present as the pattern arises and runs. Mm-hmm. Okay, so let me now give you the points of avoidance, okay? So the point of avoidance for the one is open anger. In other words, The one is sitting on anger and they're projecting out.
Perfection.
But for them to actually engage in open anger, like say, hey, you go to hell. I can't stand you. You're full of shit. You know, you're this, that, you know, they have great difficulty doing that. So what you do then is go in the direction of open anger, and that will open everything else up for you if you're a one. And if you're a one, think about that. If you're one, write this down. Open anger. If you're a two, moving on to two, personal need. Okay, you're so obsessed with other people's needs that the last place you want to go to is your personal need. It's going to feel selfish to you. You're going to be like, because you don't want to acknowledge your self-importance.
Feel empty. You feel scared when you're not obsessing about other people's needs.
Right. So your challenge is to go, what's in this situation? Like say you're realizing you're doing a two thing with somebody, then you go, what's my personal need that I'm in denial of? Okay, it's just think about it. Of course, you know, wouldn't you think most people are concerned with their personal needs? Not a two.
No.
So that's their point of avoidance, is to acknowledge their personal needs in a situation.
And one of the best things that you can also do is spend time alone. They don't like being alone. They always like to be helping.
Yeah, because then they're going to have to fall back on the fact that I'm not filling my void. And by the way, we would both agree what is really being avoided is the void.
Is the void, yes.
Yeah, it's being the fear of extinction, the void.
Nothing.
Okay, the fear of death. The death of what? The false self.
Exactly.
Okay, you know, so again, the type per se is not the false self, it's the identification with it. Okay, anyway, so then moving on to the three. The point of avoidance for the three, you know, even though their fixation or passion is deception or self-deception, the point of avoidance is failure. So they don't want to experience failure. And even, for example, if they go on vacation, a three going on vacation continues to do. If they stop doing at any time, just, you know, like sitting still, stop doing, literally stop doing, they will actually start feeling like a failure. Because their compulsion to do and perform is so total that if they stop doing, even on a vacation, then they start to feel that a fear of failure. Okay, so failure and doing is the point of avoidance for three.
Like they think I am my image, what I do. You know?
Yeah, and their image has to be constantly maintained, like a juggling act, like a constant performance. So as soon as they stop performing and doing that, they immediately feel it. So this is the clue for threes, as opposed to, say, going after their image and all that, which is the obvious stuff. So to me, this point of avoidance is very valuable. Okay, four, ordinary living. Their point of avoidance is ordinary living. Yes, their fixation is envy and, you know, all that. But if when you look at yourself as a four, or you're looking at a four, you know, another person, when you look at yourself and you go ordinary living, see, that's going to scare the pants off of you. That's what you go to. Notice point of avoidance is the easy thing to go to, that once you start, you know, pushing on that. For example, if you were four, instead of dressing in a special way, you know, instead of having the perfect tennis shoes, the matching socks, the glamorous, you know, look that shows you're superior, you're artistic, you're aesthetic, just wear ordinary jeans, you know, t-shirt, nobody special. You do that, that'll bring your stuff up right there. Okay, anything, you know, you cannot possibly be an ordinary.
They like to feel
person.
elite. So just to be, it's okay to just be okay with what I have, what I am. It's okay.
Yeah, if we were to say work with your envy, you'd be like, yeah, I guess I'm, you know, envious of some, yeah, I'm envious of a billionaire. You wouldn't get it, you see. So we have to go to where you're not defended, to where you're not automatically compensating and denying. Okay, so ordinary living for a four, that's their, that's a easy to attack blind spot. Okay, moving on to five. Okay, for five, the point of avoidance is emptiness. Sounds abstract, but it isn't. Let me explain. I had a time one time, you know, some years ago when I had a friend who was moving. He had a truck. He wanted to move his stuff. So he calls me up and says, hey, you know, help me move. You know, it'll be fun. I've got some beers and all this is, you know, back in the day. And I felt immediately, whoosh, I felt my whole energy pull back and go, oh, I don't want to expend that energy. Even though he was my friend, it was like, oh, I can't afford to expend that energy to this person. You see, I'm being miserly right now, like Cratchit, you know, in that Christmas story, you know. And I was afraid of expending that energy because why? You know, for my friend to help him physically move. Why? Because I would end up empty afterwards. So my fear of emptiness. So anytime for a 5, you see yourself pulling back, you see from that opportunity to engage and give, you're afraid of running out of gas. You're afraid you're going to run on empty. This is a very tangible, visceral, physical experience. It's easy to identify once you recognize it. And you will start to see it's permeating your 5-ness. So as opposed to, you hear about the greed and the avarice, you know, you go, well, how is a 5 greedy? I mean, the guy lives so simply, you know, how is he greedy? See, this is what's misleading about these passions. But if we go to, how is he holding back? How is he not giving out energy? How is he afraid of running out of gas, not having enough? Why is he hoarding?
You're hoarding your own life force.
Why is he doing that? Because he's afraid of not having any. And that's the emptiness, the fear of emptiness. Okay, so moving on. With the 6, we've talked about the fear, the doubt, the catastrophic thinking, the cup half empty. But with the 6, actually, the point of avoidance is spontaneity, because they're so busy planning to prevent the worst case scenario. It's very challenging for them to be spontaneous, which is maybe why they get along with 7s, or 7s are really good for them because 7s love being spontaneous. So spontaneity is, so a 6, for example, to use another, you know, friend situation, a 6, their 7 friends says, hey, let's, you know, like Ananda said, go to the beach, go to the movies, whatever.
Go.
And the 6 is going, well, what about this? Just go. Just go. Be spontaneous.
Even if you take with your bug spray and 90 towels and you take with whatever you need in case there's a tsunami, still go to the beach. Go to the beach if you're safe.
That's okay. It's okay. You probably won't use any of it, but that's all right. It makes
you
feel better. Just if you
so
can, you know. Now for the 7, actually, we've already talked about their point of avoidance, which is pain. Because, you know, having my experience of 7s it's right under the surface. You got to scratch a little bit and boom, it's right there, the pain. So it's very easy for a 7, I think we're saying this before, stop. And what's going to start coming up immediately is that pain. It's right below the surface. And their passion, by the way, classically is called gluttony. Okay.
More.
Yeah. And for the 8, we've also kind of talked about their point of avoidance, which is vulnerability or weakness. So in other words, to feel any kind of sensitive, tender, empathic emotion for an 8 is very difficult. The emotion they're comfortable with is anger, because anger feels powerful. So they always want to go to anger immediately. Notice they might feel afraid, scared, weak, vulnerable, and they immediately go to anger and start attacking. You know, the best defense is a good attack, you know, so that they don't have to feel that vulnerability, that weakness, that tenderness, that softness, because they learned as a child that if they do that, then they'll just get run over. So, you know, what I have to do is fight and always fight. So anyway, so if you're an 8, then you already know that probably. But that's the challenge. And 8 will, when it's optimizing and self-realizing, it will go to 2. In other words, helping others, and being in touch with those feelings.
Yeah.
And then finally for the 9, this is an interesting one. I found this very interesting. The point of avoidance for 9s, as we talked about sloth and inability to take action, inability to make decisions, you know, they're narcotizing themselves, being numb, etc. Well, the way for a 9 to move to self-awakening, to self-awareness, in order to really bring stuff up, to start observing it really quickly and easily, which is what the point of avoidance is for, is conflict. So, you know, kind of like the 1 was open anger. With the 9, it's conflict. So when they're in a conflict situation, the best thing a 9 can do is move towards the conflict. Don't fall asleep. Don't become passive. Move towards that conflict. And once you do that, you know, and yet let everything run, be aware, but don't interfere, okay? Then what will happen is your energy activates and you start to feel again. You stop being numbed out. So conflict is the key, is the point of avoidance for 9s. It's easy to get to. See, if we say you're lazy and slothful, you're like, well, no, I'm not, because I meditate all day long. you know, but if, you know, you're a 9, right? But, you know, if we say,
but nines also go
what are you doing while
drink
you,
alcohol and smoke weed. They do a lot of,
they're numbing out,
they're always numbing out.
but they're avoiding conflict or suppressing conflict. You know, in one way they're avoiding conflict. Okay, so I really want to read this poem by T.S. Eliot, and then I think we'll be ready for the RASA. Okay, so we've been talking about going to the still point, going to the open center, you know, in other words, being, how would you describe it? What a person should do when their stuff is arising as their type? What would you?
What I do, I can speak for myself, is I just allow myself to feel this stuff arising me. And instead of taking the usual 8 action, you know, for me as an 8, it's not optimal to do that. So for me, instead of reacting, I just allow myself to feel it and to feel it until the feeling passes. You know, I just stop. You know, again, I pull up the handbrake when I'm being triggered and I stop. And I will always try to react from a place of a 2. In other words, I'm consciously aware of my tendencies. So I'll give a chance of being 2-like, you know, and the only time I will not do that anymore is when I'm again challenged, or if I really need to challenge a student. So I'll be challenging and provocative if I feel it's in the best interest of the person sitting in front of me. Otherwise, I tend to just stop and feel my feelings, you know. I mean, as an 8, they don't want to feel vulnerable. And I'll then express, I feel so vulnerable. I feel this, I feel that, because it just doesn't come naturally to me. It never used to, now it does. And I'll rather say what I feel versus pretending that I don't feel and just acting out in anger. So that's the hardest thing for me to do, is admit I'm vulnerable, admit I'm scared, admit my innocence, admit all those things. So you know, once you practice, though, it becomes easy.
I did the same. That's interesting, yeah, because I'm not sure I've ever asked you that exact question. So for me, I do exactly the same thing. I'm aware of the feelings and your thoughts and emotions, let them all run until basically they run out. But the difference is, knowing that I'm a 5, is whenever I see a temptation to avoid engagement,
you engage.
I know I need to move forward, move out and forward and into and engage. Okay, and that's optimizing towards an 8. Okay, so this is how it works. So I hope it's okay. I want to read this poem. It's pretty short. It's by T.S. Eliot, 1935, a very famous poem from a book, 4 Quarters, and this is a section called Burnt Norton. Okay, so we've been talking about the still point. So here it is. At the still point of the turning world, neither flesh nor fleshless, neither from nor towards. At the still point, there the dance is, but neither arrest nor movement. And do not call it fixity, where past and future are gathered, neither movement from nor towards, neither ascent nor decline, except for the point, the still point. There would be no dance, and there is only dancing. I can only say, there we have been, but I cannot say where. And I cannot say how long, for it is a place, for that would be to place it in time. So you see, T.S. Eliot is talking about what we're talking about. We're talking about go to that still point at the center of your turning world. It's always there. Your world is turning around it. Your Enneagram type is turning around in open, empty, all-embracing center. And in that center is intrinsic, natural, effortless peace and happiness and joy and kindness and love and all that good stuff. But essentially well-being, well-being and
well-being,
contentment.
It's all okay.
Yeah, it's all good. Okay,
good.
so what I want to do now is I'm now going to go use the restroom, and anybody else who wants to can do so. And then when I come back, then we are going to give you the RASA. Okay?
Yay.
So I'll be right back.
Oh God, it's shit, we didn't send Dominique and Cherie a link.
I did.
Are they here? I can't see them.
No.
Guys, it would be really awesome if we could see your faces for the
Yeah,
your
for the
heads.
RASA, if you can be.
For the RASA, please.
And if you don't have, at least put your picture up. Thank you. Yeah, and this is being recorded. And so in case anybody did miss, they can still watch it. And we're going to make, after we upload the recording, we will send out a mailing with the link to the recording so you can watch it again. There was a lot of information.
There's a third page. Is Dominique here? I'm upset now that he was left out. Oh, he didn't. I don't know. He's not here.
Well,
oh well.
I don't know. Maybe when I refunded them, maybe that took them out of the thing. You know, that's possible.
Okay, guys. You know, we haven't yet decided on, you know, if we'll do another theme. If you guys, there anything that you guys want to talk about, you can email me. If you want, you know, I think a lot of post 1,000 people want to talk, have a kind of a posties kind of event. Maybe we'll do that. And then the other thing just to know is I'm going to be doing, where's Marika? Marika, there you are. She's got different hair today. You may not recognize her. And Maria, there's Maria next to her. I see Maria. But we're going to be doing another event for the ladies on the 25th of September at 10 a.m. Pacific Daylight Time. I'll send something out about that, but I'll say that it was just, you know, it was one of the best events I've ever been a part of, only because A, it's not a monologue, B, the women get to just really open up and say anything goes. It was just fun, real, and awesome. So we're going to do one of those for any of the German speaking ladies, because there is a translator, so it's German to English, English to German, and you know, it's really fun. So it's not a satsang. It's just us kind of shooting the breeze, being ourselves, and talking about anything, any questions that you women want to ask. This is the time to ask them, to be yourselves. All I do is kind of answer questions, you know, that's it. So, you can join us on the 25th of September. If you're a girl. Sorry, guys. You have to make sessions with us. Eric, hi, my friend. Oh, yes. Jason's sending some great books on the Enneagram if you guys are interested. Thanks, Jason.
All right, what is all this done?
Oh.
So you ready to do it?
Yeah, I'm ready. I'm hungry also.
All right, well, this thing called food, we can probably find some of it.
Everybody ready for RASA? So all you have to do is we're going to give you RASA for 20 minutes. Close your eyes, receive, enjoy, and just that's it. Just receive and enjoy it and relax.
Receptive, like you're getting a massage or getting a suntan on the beach. That's it.
And yeah, close your eyes, and we're going to mute ourselves. Okay?
Yes, right now.
Yeah.
And then we'll come back on and
we'll
tell you that it's over. So it's 20 minutes.
20 minutes. We're going to start in like 3 seconds.
Yep. Muting.
Okay, everybody, that was your RASA. I truly hope we didn't bore you to tears and that we managed to keep this fun and that you learned something today. That's the most important thing. And we love you. We always love seeing you all. And we look forward to seeing you again soon. And if there are any questions, please don't hesitate to email us. Again, there are such wonderful books out there. So you can always ask Jason or look at whatever it is that he referred. And you don't have to read too much into this. It's just really just, as Ramaji said, it's the basics. The basics are the triggers.
Yeah, the point of fixation will take you into your passion or your fixation, and that will take you into your truth. So, each step of the way, it's returning back to just being with, to do nothing except to be.
Thank you, Trish.
Allow, let go.
Mhm.
Especially the only problem we really have, any of us have, is resistance.
Yes.
Resistance to what is. And we basically, our Enneagram type represents our greatest fear.
Yes.
So that's why people avoid it, and it's essentially an avoidance of fear. But the personality structure is needed for the human being to function. So after you awaken, you still continue with your Enneagram type, but it gets optimized, and the negative conditioning, most of it falls away effortlessly because you're no longer resisting.
Exactly.
And you're no longer living from fear.
Mm-hmm. You become fearless beings. You are already, okay? So we're just eliminating all those things that perhaps stand in the way. And that's what this is all about.
And when the fear goes, love remains.
Exactly. It's all about love.
All about love.
Thank you. Thank you. We
Thanks,
love
everybody.
you guys. We
Thanks,
love you.
Yeah, let us know if you have any particular topic, including the Enneagram, that you want to hear more about. Okay.
And please, ladies, join the women's group because we get into like this fun
She's fabulous.
stuff.
It's if you're a woman, if I was a woman, I'd be there. Okay. In fact, I might dress up in drag and pretend.
One thing I love
just
about
so I
us
can
chicks,
sneak in
the
there.
best thing about women is this: it's okay to say it like it is, and it just flows. It's real. It's all good. Okay, thanks everyone. I'll see you soon.
And like I said, we'll send out a notice of the recording in sometime this week coming up. So, thank you, everybody.